Welcome to CivilNet. My guest is Karen Smith. She's the Country Director for American Councils for International Education here in Yerevan. Karen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Actually, thank you for hosting us in your office. We wanted to talk to you today about a number of things that the American Councils does in Armenia. One of the more interesting programs is the FLEX program, which is a foreign language exchange program, or what is FLEX?
Yes, it's not only about language, it's about culture, it's about bringing together people from different cultures and helping us to understand one another. So students studying in Armenian high schools in 9th through 12th grades have a chance to apply to go to the United States for one academic year, live with an American host family, attend an American high school. And we're starting actually to recruit for FLEX students on Friday. We'll go to Tallinn and Hrazdan, and we're going to be going to different cities across the country to give a very short English test to students who want to try to go to the US next year.
And how long has the FLEX program been operating in Armenia?
It's over 20 years now that the FLEX program's been operating. We have 850 students who have been on the program. Many have returned to Armenia and they're doing amazing things. Some are the mayors of cities, some are in government, some are running not-for-profit organizations.
Well, you know, you were a Peace Corps volunteer here in Armenia, and you lived in a small village. You came from the United States to a very, very different place, a different culture, a different way of living, a different standard of living, and you lived with a host family. So you can relate, I presume, with the younger kids from Armenia who are going to the States. How has their integration been once they arrive? Because there are children from the villages that do go to the United States. Do they go to big cities? Do they go to rural communities? How does it work? How are the children paired up with the host families?
Sure. Most students go to very small communities in the US. We have a lot of students who are very excited about going to New York or going to Los Angeles. The reality is
they don't go there.
They end up in small towns in Michigan and Illinois and different states in the US. And it is difficult sometimes to adjust expectations, and you know, we really look for students who can be adaptable and adjust, and we find that, you know, students from villages are just as resilient and adaptable as students from Yerevan are. It doesn't really matter where the students in Armenia are coming from. Everyone's going to have a period of adjustment. For the vast majority of the students who come back, it's a life-changing experience.
Yeah, because they're teenagers and they can be impressionable, and they can have difficulties. So they need to know English, obviously, but the cultural barriers and the cultural sort of stereotypes. Does it help sort of enlighten or broaden the horizon of kids once they go in there? Because Armenia is a very monolithic country. We're all Armenian here, a very small percentage of minorities, and now they're going into a country which is very multicultural. How has that experience been? What have been some of the stories from these kids who go and come back?
Well, what's fantastic is it's a life-changing experience on all ends, right? It's life-changing for the American host families. It's life-changing for the high school students that they're studying with, for the communities. And what's fantastic is that what happens when you have cultures coming together like this is the conversations that happen around the dining room table or happen while they're out playing American football or basketball. People are having conversations about this, and what's fantastic is by the students asking certain questions, you know, it's opening these dialogues that help Americans to better understand what our own culture is like. At the same time, it helps Armenian students to understand what is this all about. We spend some time with students before they go in orientation, and we help to introduce them to these kinds of concepts, and we help to introduce them to some of the struggles that they might face through culture shock, and we help to equip them with tools for how they can overcome. I mean, what's really fantastic is that I've seen and heard students say that actually when they've come back to Armenia, they've used these same kinds of social tools when returning to their own countries and when facing, you know, some of the cultural norms that they might face in Armenia.
You know, we often forget that the host family is also impacted by this new relationship, by a child from a country or a culture that may be unfamiliar to them. So it's a win-win situation. Tell me, if you will, the FLEX program was instituted after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and is for the former Soviet republics that are now independent states. Does that program, does it still exist in all of those countries?
Some. There have been 2 countries that have stopped operating, and I don't have all of the details right now on what happened, that countries decided. I mean, you know, we are here because the State Department is funding the program, and because the government of Armenia has allowed us to continue working here. So I can't speculate as to some of the reasons, but I do know that a few of the countries have stopped.
And compared to the region, for example, if we take Georgia, how many kids, I mean, is it a static number every year, or does it fluctuate? Do you have a quota of every year there's going to be 20 children or 20 young adults who are going to the States, or does that number fluctuate with funding or with circumstances?
The number has fluctuated both up and down across Eurasia for the last 22 years. This year we have 27 students studying in the United States. Next year I would love for there to be more. In Georgia, for example, for every slot historically that there have been 75 students who have applied to attend, whereas in Armenia it's only been about 25 slots, or 25 students for every slot.
Well, it's interesting. So there's a greater demand or greater request in Georgia, and yet in Armenia, is it a matter of people not knowing about the program, perhaps after 20 years, which is interesting?
Yeah, it's very possible. You know, I was just in Sicyon last weekend, and I was talking to teachers in really rural communities who knew about it. We send an email to every single school. Teachers seem to know about it. Students seem to know about it. I think there are a variety of factors. I do agree that there are still some people who don't know about it, and I would urge everyone who finds out about the program to share it with people that you know. But I also think that it has a little bit to do maybe with confidence. I think it maybe has something to do with parents who might not be so excited about having their student gone for 10 months out of the year.
Right. So it's a cultural thing, perhaps, the strong family unit not wanting their children to venture out into the big world, not knowing where they're going, perhaps?
Yeah, there are so many factors that are coming into play, and you know, that's definitely one of the challenges that we face, is how can we ensure that people know about it? How can we ensure diversity in the program? You know, more people from the regions attending, more students with disabilities attending. We can make accommodations for these students. We actually have one student now with cerebral palsy who's studying in the United States. And you know, even if students feel that their English isn't strong enough, they have to pass some basic requirements. But even if they need a little bit of extra help, we have an additional language camp, and students will go to Moldova for some weeks before traveling to the US to help boost their confidence, to help make sure that they can be successful. We want Armenian students to be successful, to have an amazing experience exchanging cultures, and to, of course, improve their English.
Okay, just one final question about the FLEX program. Have you gotten any pushback from some schools or communities, or usually the reaction is pretty positive when you go and talk about the program? It's
overwhelmingly positive. I've not had any experiences where people have not been excited about it. It's going to vary from individual to individual, and I'm happy if people don't feel they want to participate. It's not for everyone.
Right, right. Tell me, what else does your organization do? You've been working in Armenia since independence, the American Councils for International Education. What other kinds of programs do you offer?
Sure. Well, we have 850 alumni who've been on the FLEX program, and when they come back, we have programs and activities for them to engage with their communities, and that's really driven by the alumni based on what they want to do. Alumni have decided they want a mentoring program, so we've recently started a program for older alumni who maybe were in the US in the mid-90s, can mentor some of the younger ones. These alumni have businesses, they're leaders in their communities, and it's a really fantastic resource. So we have a lot of activities with alumni. We also have Education USA, where We have an advisor based here who can help students who are interested in studying in the United States to find out about what they need to do, applications, English language exams, scholarship opportunities. We actually have a fair happening on October 6th at the Marriott in the evening, and representatives from U.S. universities are going to be there, and students can come and actually talk to them. We have a competitive college club where students can talk about debate and bring together their ideas for college applications. So, I mean, that's a really fantastic program and a nice way for students who maybe don't want to study at the high school level to still have access to education in the United States. We also have a program for professionals between 25 and 35 years old, where they go to the U.S. for a 6-month internship in their field. We've had fellows placed with legislators, with nonprofit organizations. They go and they experience what it's like to work in the United States, and then their counterpart from the U.S. comes back to Armenia and they jointly implement a project. So there's been a project, for example, on food safety, on legislation. We actually have one person from the United States who was participating in the program who's here now implementing a project. And tomorrow we are going to say goodbye to 3 of the fellows who are going to be going to the United States, and they'll be back in a few months.
So it seems that the young adults, the high school students who go to the United States come back and then they become, I mean, the success rate seems to be very high in how as they get older, as they pursue their education, whether it's in Armenia or abroad, they come back and they seem to be leaders in their communities or in their fields. So it is giving kids, by opening up their world, giving them a new experience, it is giving them tools to become successful later on as adults.
Yeah, and it's exciting too when I talk to the families of these students, you know, the Armenian families, they say their lives changed and, you know, within their own family unit, and it's overwhelmingly positive. So I'm really, really excited, and I'm hopeful that this year our interest in the program is going to increase. So we'll be in Hrazdan in Tallinn this Friday, then we're going to the north next week, and then the south the week after, and then we'll be in Yerevan. So let's see what happens.
Okay, well, all the best to you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us and tell us a little bit about the American Councils for International Education and the FLEX program, and hopefully we'll be catching up with some of the FLEX alumni in the coming months and years.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to remind our viewers that my guest was Karen Smith. She's the Country Director for the American Councils on International Education. Stay with CivilNet.